All stand, please. All persons having anything to do with the sitting of the Supreme Court of Tasmania, draw nigh and give your attendance. Please be seated.
Yes, Mr Armstrong, thank you.
Good morning, Your Honour. The matter is continuing. I've just asked Mr Ioannidis to go outside and check with the TFS gentleman as to what's the situation with Mr Hall, who you will recall had been sent off to do a site visit and do some homework, and I hope to have some more information about that in a moment.
Thank you.
But apart from that, could we please recall Mr Bones to the witness stand?
Yes, thank you. Now, I'm told there was an amendment to the exhibit list, or two amendments. Councillor agreed about those amendments?
Yes, Your Honour.
Yes, Your Honour.
I'm reminded that your oath was previously sworn in. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Mr Bones. Take a seat, make yourself comfortable.
Morning, Your Honour.
Mr Reid.
Yes, thank you, Your Honour. Mr Bones, you took photographs of, or at 242 White Hills Road on both the 5th and the 6th of January. That's correct, isn't it?
That's correct.
And the police also took photographs on both the 5th and the 6th. That's correct?
Negative, not on the 5th. The forensics didn't attend on the 5th. It was Tony Johnson and myself.
Right, okay.
As I recall.
Could the witness please be shown document 99? Now, just scroll down so we can see the last of those photos. Yes. Can you can see those thumbnails, can you, as a general sense? We can go to each one if you like, but
Yeah, yes,
really,
I can see that.
yes. Does that? And sorry, and if we can now get up document 100. Now, you recognise document 100, those thumbnails, as photographs taken by you, do you? You or Tony Johnson?
Yeah, I believe that the photos were taken by either or.
Yeah. And now back to 100. Those photographs are, I can tell you the metadata shows they're taken on the 5th and with a different camera to the one that the TFS was using on the 5th. Do you accept that they're taken by police?
I'm unsure. It's really hard to cast my memory back to who took exactly what photos at what time, given the time frame.
Right. Okay. Well, on the 6th, the police photographer was there. You recall that?
I definitely recall Lindsay Needham from forensics being on the scene on the 6th, yes.
And what I'm interested in is the interface between the TFS and the forensic photographer, or the police, we'll just call him a police photographer rather than giving him the fancy term forensic. Is it correct to say that the photographer will take photographs at the request or direction of the TFS?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And that is because you have the expertise in fire investigation and you say, look, Lindsay, will you take a picture of that for me, please?
Yeah, that is correct.
Thank you. Now, I've got another memory test for you. I'm sorry, Mr. Bones. If we could get document 24, page 340034 up. You'll see there's a list of persons information obtained from, and you'll see that some of those persons, and I think the number is 6, have the date of the 5th next to them. So 6 of those persons have the date of the 5th. And my memory test for you is to work out who arrived at about the same time as you did at the property at 242 White Hills Road, and who then left, because I think we know that Constable Thompson and Constable Peterson left, at least, were involved in interviews with Barrett and Robinson. Now, are you able to help? This is a memory test. Are you able to help with who remained, if anyone?
I'm not quite sure, but I could run you through the sequence of events leading up to us arriving at the property and then what occurred initially. But I can't recall exactly who stayed on the scene with Tony Johnson and myself.
Yes, well, it's really who stayed on the scene that I'm interested in. How many officers stayed on the scene? Do you remember?
My memory doesn't serve me that well on that particular point.
Thank you. Could we go to page 35 of that document? No, I'm sorry, I don't need to do that. Thank you. Can we go to document 100? And photos 877. Am I in the wrong place?
Mm-hmm.
I am. I need then to be in. I need to be in 99. Yes, I do. 877. Now, yesterday you discussed 2 figures in Mr. Gilmore's report. One was figure 7 and the other was figure 20. I'm quite happy for you to go back to Gilmore's report to 7 and 20, but you accept that that is one of those photos?
I believe so, yes.
Yes. Now, what I want to ask you about is the significance of large amounts of white ash in the photograph, and the significance of that, do you accept, is that it shows prolonged burning?
Yeah, that's correct. No more complete combustion.
Yes.
Higher temperatures.
Yes. So where there are areas of deep white ash, it won't assist with a fire run. It will simply tell you that the fire burnt there with intensity.
That's not totally correct. It just depends on the fuel loading in the vicinity. Normally detects that there's been a run of fire through that area and of relatively high intensity. However, if there's no firefighting efforts in the area, that will consume a lot of the finer fuels over a period of time, and that will produce white ash.
Mr. Reid, uninstructed or unassisted at least, I don't see any white ash. I don't understand what you're referring to by white ash.
I'll come to that, Your Honour, thank you. In fact, I'll come there now. Can you assist His Honour, as he just requested, with the white ash that's shown in that photograph that shows high intensity burning.
Perhaps ask Mr Temponi to move the cursor around and tell him when to stop.
As an example, if we go to sort of the right, there's a little stump to the right of the rocks, and just down below there is white ash.
Down in Mr Temponi circling around an area there, is that the area you're referring to?
Yes, that's an example.
Could we put that circle in there, please, Mr Temponi?
Anywhere else?
Well, there's some to the bottom of the screen there.
You'd need to put
Most likely attributed to, yes, across most of the bottom there.
I mean, just up from what appears to be a white rock on the bottom right.
Larger items are burnt there.
You'll need a big oval across that, will you?
Correct.
Yeah. So, Mr Temponi, if you can draw a big oval that, correct me if I'm wrong about Mr Bones, nearly extends the width of the photograph.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. So that's deep white ash.
I'm unable to confirm if it's deep
Well, that
white
was
ash.
the term-
Could be on the surface.
That was the term Mr Reid used. So what's your term to describe what's been encircled?
That'd be more complete combustion that's occurred. Is white ash is a product of that.
White ash indicating more complete combustion. Thank you.
And if we look at the rock up in the top left-hand corner between the what appears to be blackened cut-off or blackened tree stump and between that rock and the blackened tree stump, we see a white patch. That's likely to be an area of more complete combustion.
Likely to be.
Thank you. Can we put a circle around that, please? And just finally, over to the right from that, there's a stump which is cut off just up from there, please, Mr Temponi. And to the right and perhaps behind that, again, there's another area that meets that description. Is that right?
Appears to be, yes.
Yes, put a circle around that, please. Yes. You content with those, where each of those markings are, Mr Bones?
Yeah, I believe so.
Thank you very much. Could we go, please, to...
Sorry, perhaps Mr Reid might like to have the photo marked to be tendered.
In a moment. Go to photo 878, please.
Well, I'd like the screenshot marked at least, because otherwise we'll lose it.
It's going to lose if we go to the other one. Yes, I was going to do them both at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I'll tender it now in that
Okay,
case. I wasn't
you.
aware we were going to lose it. Yes.
Just read out the bit too.
So I tender that document, Your Honour.
Thank you. That's Barry Bones 1016 is probably a good description for it. Or photo 1. 016.
Now it's 878. Now, do you accept that, and we may need to go back to the Gilmore report just to match these, but do you accept that this is likely to be figure 20 of the Gilmore report?
I do.
Yeah. And the previous one was figure 5. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And again, in this photograph, there are patches of white ash that are seen.
Yeah, correct.
Can you just point to a couple of them? Could you please point to a couple of the more prominent ones?
In the bottom left-hand corner, you see a large stick, and sort of there's an unburnt or heavily charred piece to the left and right of that.
Thank you. Put a circle around that, please, Mr. Tempone. And just above that, there's a smaller area, is there, of white ash with some charcoal in it?
Just below the rock.
Yeah, just below the rock.
Yeah, it would appear so.
Yes, could you circle that, please?
Is that staining on the rock?
Yes, it appears to be, Your Honour.
And that staining is likely to be caused by the intense burning of in that area, isn't it?
Yes, it be attributed to fuel load and also an indication of fire direction of travel.
Well, I need to specifically put to you, Mr. Bones, that where there is intense, where there is burning of the extent shown by the ash that's been circled, there will be rock staining, but it will not be indicative of the direction of fire run.
That can be the case. However, when we're interpreting fire travel, we use more than one indicator to indicate the direction of the fire travel. But you're correct, that can have an effect.
Yes. So at page 300 of the transcript, Mr. Bones, you don't have it in front of you, but I'll read to you what you said yesterday. There's obviously been a fairly intensive burning there. This is by reference to this particular photograph, it appears. It's been burning for some time, I'd say, without a lot of intervention from anybody, and that statement applies to that photograph as you now look at it. Thank you. So you'll notice you get a lot of damage around everything. You would have had higher fuel loads around these stumps, longer grass and so forth. So some of those burn patterns cannot be that effective in relation to the actual travel of fire because of the different vegetation, amount of vegetation there can give us false indicators. So there's the potential for the staining on that rock to be a false indicator, isn't there?
Yes, there is potential for that.
And can I just finally here take you to two other parts of this photograph. One is the stump, which appears to have white charring up its eastern face. If you just go up from there, Mr. Tempone, you see that stump?
Yes, I do.
And beneath that, is there an area of intense burning?
It appears to be some white ash there.
Yes, could we circle that, please? And we might be able to do this as one mark because just below that and to the right there appears to be another such area.
Correct.
Do you want one or two marks there, Mr. Bones?
I'm happy with the one.
Happy with the one, Mr. Tempone, if you can enlarge that to encompass both of those areas. Right, well, I don't think Mr. Tempone's done what I was asking you about, Mr. Bones, but are you happy with that? As showing an area of intense burning, or please direct him if you need to change it.
I think we get the idea that we're trying to focus on the white ash.
Yeah. So you're content with it? Yeah.
I'm content with that.
Yes, I tend to that.
Yes, thank you.
Could the witness please be shown document 53, video 16 at 32 minutes and 25 seconds?
My apologies.
It's one of the correct.
Doc 53, video 0016. Thank you. And if we can take that through to 3225.
Session.
Thank you. Just before we play it, you recognise the lady shown in the video as Mel Barrett?
I believe that's Mel Barrett, yes.
Yes. Now, Mr. Bones, I want you to watch this video, and I'm going to ask if you can assist the court with a couple of things. First of all, Ms. Barrett has shown a photograph two photographs during the interview, and I'm wanting to see if you can assist the court by identifying amongst the photographs the thumbnails which you saw today, whether you can identify the photograph within that, and also if you can assist the court with who provided the police with those two photographs. So if you can watch that carefully, please. If you're able to do it without watching the video, please tell us now rather than us watching it.
I don't believe I've seen this video before.
Okay, right, let's watch it then. Thank you.
They didn't even catch the light. Yeah. So my whole septic area never catch the whole rest of the thing did. So yeah, and that's where the log sits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was never affected in all the last 3 days events. That area where we had the little log fire has never been affected by fire in the last 3 days.
No.
Alright.
Not at all.
Right. Now, as you're aware, when we turned up today, there were a number of other officers with us.
Yes.
And some of those officers were from the Tas Fire Service.
Yep.
And so we had 2 officers from the fire service that are fire investigators.
Yep.
You probably saw their vehicle there anyway.
Yes, you pointed it out. Yeah, I didn't listen to
exactly.
it.
All right, so they've obviously conducted an examination of your property.
Yep.
And they're obviously trying to determine the origin and the cause of the fire.
Yep.
Now, they've provided me with some preliminary information.
Oh, good. Because I'd like to know myself.
Yeah, okay. So
Can we just stop there, please? Do you recall providing any preliminary information to the police officers, or the police officer who was conducting this interview?
When was the interview conducted?
On the evening of the 5th. It's about. I'll give you the exact times. Excuse me, Your Honour.
It was in the evening, wasn't it?
It was in the evening.
7 till 9 or something?
A bit later than that. I think it was more like 8 till 10:45 or something of that sort. But it was. It commenced at 8:15 and went for 134 minutes. So about 8:15 to a bit after 10:30 is the timing of the interview on the evening of the 5th.
Yes, so we obviously provide information updates to Tas Police because they have a vested interest. We work very closely with each other, so we share lots of information. That's nothing unusual.
I'm not suggesting there's anything unusual at all. We're just trying to work out what occurred, Mr. Bones. Yeah, Mr. Bones, you're not under threat at all here. At all. We just want to know what happened.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Now, we can continue, please.
That they can confirm the scene of the fire started 20 metres east of the house. In the dryer, 20 metres east of the house, and then it went away in an easterly direction. So basically, I'll show you a picture.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, it's just hard to work out your distances when you're,
All right, so photo number 1, just for the purpose of the interview.
Right, could you just stop it there, please? Now, that appears, does it, to be a photograph of the big log looking in a general southeasterly direction.
It's a bit scratchy, but it definitely looks like I can definitely see a large log laying there.
Right. Now, are we able, Mr. Tempone, to provide, what I want the witness to try and do is to identify amongst the police, well, amongst the 2 sets of photographs for the 5th, whether we can find that photograph amongst them. So how are we going to be able to do that, Mr. Tempone, without losing things?
Just minimise it, Mr. Reid, and open another one.
Well, you can certainly do that on these things.
Which bundle of photographs?
Well, let's start with the first. Let's start with 99 first. Just leave the thumbnails up for a moment, will you? Mr. Bones may be able to work from those. If not, we'll go to. And if you need if you find one you think might be it, ask for it to come up, will you?
Okay.
Thanks.
Could be 863. I know. It's probably a bit far away.
Yes. Probably a bit far away, yes. Let's go back. So it doesn't appear to be in that set of photographs.
No, it doesn't.
Right. Now, if we go to the other set, which is the set that you took. This is document 100 we're looking at. Now, Mr. Bones, for the sake of the transcript, you don't need to know it's document 100. If we can have a look at those thumbnails again.
Your Honour, just before, while Mr. Bones is looking at those photographs, the proposition was just put to him that these are photos that he took. I'm not sure that that's entirely accurate.
No, probably not, but perhaps with the metadata that suggests that they were taken by Mr. Bones.
Or I think they were taken while he was there.
Do you mean either by him or Mr. Johnson, or...?
I'm not sure, Your Honour, but I don't think Mr. Bones agreed yesterday that he took all these photos.
No, it's not established as a fact, I agree.
Well, I couldn't see that photo in there.
No. Now back to your memory, Mr. Bones. You and Mr. Johnson had the TFS camera. You don't.
That's correct.
You don't remember. Well, I'm sorry. What's your memory of other cameras?
Off memory, I don't recall forensics actually being there on our initial visit. However, there were several police officers and maybe a Mr. Adams. he was doing some videoing and so forth. I can't recall if there was anything done on scene on the 5th though by him.
Right.
So maybe he had a camera.
Yeah, he's not noted as being there on the 5th in your
Wasn't he?
in your document. You've got the first note of him of the 6th.
Yep.
So
Did not the interviewing officer say that she received that photograph on her phone and printed it out?
yes, she did.
Could have come from anywhere.
Well, it could have, and that's
We know
yes.
at the time Mr. Bones was there.
Yes.
There were other police officers there. We've seen photographs which are in evidence.
Yes. Well, my question is, it's likely, isn't it, that that photograph arrived with the police officer as a result of a request by you?
I'm not sure. I can't recall the interactions I exactly had with police. It was all a bit hectic to start with. We turned up with police. They scooted everybody away in a car, and then we had a preliminary look around the property. So I don't recall exactly what happened, apart from the fact that Tony and I went around the property. to look at fire travel indicators.
All right, we continue the interview, please.
Number one, so if you can just have a look at this.
Yep.
Now, obviously, you've got a pretty big property. Can you identify where this picture is of?
Yep, that's my septic.
So when you
And that's
say
my big old log.
So we get four of the photo, there's a
Yep.
log.
Yep.
You're saying that's the one you've described as the garden feature that you sit on?
Yes, yep, and the fire is from Midway Point. Will kept on saying to me throughout the day, we may need to roll that down the hill.
Okay, so has that moved from its normal location?
I can't, that's what I don't know.
That's
'cause I haven't
changed this
taken-
afternoon, so that's as it is right now.
Oh, okay, then it hasn't
It
moved.
hasn't
Sorry, I've been too busy.
That's fine,
Yeah.
that's fine,
And
I'm saying,
everything
you've got a
else.
photo here that's
Yeah.
taken tonight,
Yep.
this afternoon, so that hasn't moved.
Great, lovely, and that's where it always sits.
Yep.
And I know one of my little septic nozzles melted the other night. But other than that, yeah, I've been doing perimeters around.
So when you say that's my septic, where do you mean? Can you point to that for me?
This whole clear bit is my septic. I've got 22.
So it's underground?
Yes,
okay,
yes,
yep.
correct. Yep. It's the old-fashioned way. It's not the where you.
Above ground sort of?
Yes, or where they dig them in and they come and pour something into the Euro cycle things. Luckily, because of the way my land falls, the amount of sun it gets, I was allowed to do the big old-fashioned pits.
Yeah.
So I've got 22 metres of big pits.
Okay.
So what they did when I first bought the house, because I didn't have a loo, had a portaloo, and they bulldozed all of that. And
So there's a good clearing, you'd agree?
Yeah,
photo,
yeah, definitely.
septic system there.
yes, correct.
Okay, can you see any burning or fire damage in the photo? I know it's black and white. but you're a photographer.
I think it's speckled through, but I think it's speckled through there.
Okay,
When the big
yeah,
mate-
I'm not sure if you can see that well, but these appear to be small shrubs or stumps. Can you describe what they may have been?
I can't really.
Was there
See
anything
them.
growing above the septic? Were there any trees or plants?
There's one big tree down that end as the septic
On the
tree
right
area near
side?
the leaves. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That was all bulldozed and cleared. Hamish had to come and chainsaw. We didn't like where. That's right. There are a few. It's hard to tell. Sorry by this photo, but I know right near this log, or just behind this log along here. About a year ago, we didn't like. There was the odd tree.
Yeah.
We didn't like it, so we chainsawed them so we had more clearance.
Okay. Now, that photograph I've shown you that I've printed out in black and white, I actually got in colour on my phone. I might just show you that to
Thank
try and
you.
make it a little bit easier for you. So just the best you can show
Oh, thank you.
Now,
Yep.
now this area in the middle where we were talking about some
Yep.
possible shrubs or stumps,
Yep.
now can you see that there was something, or there was some cut off?
Yep.
Yep, what
Yep.
were they?
I couldn't really say. I just assumed they were little gum trees.
Okay, so we'll just zoom in.
Yeah, they look like gum tree trunks.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. So looking at that photo, have you got your bearings with where?
Yep. Now that when the fires came up, when the firemen were up, when the first came to the house, that was not on fire at all.
That wasn't on
Yep.
fire at all.
And they were, yeah.
How sure are you of that?
Because he said, if it comes, he said we're going to have to roll that, and that was the Midway Point fire station.
All right. As I said before, it's only preliminary
Yeah,
results,
yeah.
but from what the fire scene examiners have told me, they've sent me this photograph saying that the origin or the beginning of the fire started in this area here.
Could you stop that, please? Thank you. Now, at that time, I realise that this is not your current view, but at that time, mid-evening of the 5th, it was your preliminary view, and I stress preliminary, that the fire had started in the area between the septic and the big log.
During our physical examination, we had two areas in mind. and one was a septic area, because there was evidence of fire travel across the road into the other area where the stump was. So correct, we, Tony and myself, had 2 areas that we believe were potentials.
Well, my question only related to one, and it was your preliminary view that it was that one, wasn't it? At that time.
I believe that our discussions led us to that area initially, but on subsequent walk-arounds, we identified the other area as well where the stump is.
Yes. Well, I'm interested really in the timing of when this happened, and I won't ask you a question about that at the moment. We might just continue this interview at the moment and see if we can identify that second photograph.
So they're saying they can basically confirm that the fire started over the top of the pit, is what you've described to me, where these stumps are. Like the fire started there, and then it headed down the driveway in an easterly direction, away from your house. How did it catch on fire? Well, that's what I want to know.
I don't know. Cross my heart, I don't know. I did not go anywhere around the back of my property at all. No
Have you
way
ever
at all.
burnt off in that area?
Not at all. Never, never. That stump,
Yeah, is as far as you go.
yep, and that stump is what I thought you were going to show
So,
me.
just so you've got your bearings, would the stump be about here, on the left of this page, if we were to...
Yeah, because it's sort of, yep,
Yep.
and it's about there.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay. Yep, so you're happy you know
Yeah.
where to look at?
yep. I swear to God, and as I said, I probably sit on it 2 or 3 times a year, depending if it's a nice moon or not, you know. But I didn't even go that area of the house. I didn't even, I know the house is about there, but no way did I go near that.
So how do you explain fire examiners who are trained...
I don't know, and that's what I'm saying. Cross my heart, I do not know. That's blown me away, because I thought you were going to show me a photo of the stump. Because that's what I thought after talking to the 7 Mile guy. I even sent it to Texas with girlfriends saying the stump, you know, and I go, oh no, you know, I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I cannot answer that at all.
So they're saying the fire started towards the right of the log and then went left down the driveway.
You need to talk to the Midway Point fires, because...
And we will
please
be,
do.
but I just
Yeah.
wanted to get an account
Yeah,
of
no,
explanation.
and I've got no explanation. That's just actually blown me away, to be honest.
All right.
I was,
Case.
honestly, and this is the truth, I've said it all along, my mind was on the stuff.
You thought that the
Bloody
stump
oath, yeah.
tested
Yeah.
it caused it.
Sorry for swearing, but yes. Yeah,
Right.
100%.
Could it be the case, Mel? I mean, I think you know the seriousness in that it was a total fire ban. You've said that yourself.
Yeah, gotcha, yeah.
Okay. Could it be the case that you've done some burning off and it's gotten out?
No, have not. I swear to God on this earth, I have not burnt off. The only thing I have done is whippersnipped. I am not that stupid. And I'll be honest with you, I have been so sensible. I do not do those things, and I never will do something like that. Yeah, no, sorry.
Because what they've told me also, because I wanted to just confirm if there was a possibility you'd burnt off there before, had it festered on the stuff.
No, never.
And that,
Because we're not allowed to touch the septic. We are not allowed. They told us, no way are you allowed to drive over it. Even the Midway Point Fireys were saying, Hamish and I was saying, make sure, because it was coming, and I said, make sure you save the septic. And they were actually saying, oh God, you're the septic.
Alright.
So I'm not saying people are wrong, please, but and I've only whippersnipped. I only whippersnipped.
Okay, I'll show you if I don't
a week ago.
Right, can we just freeze that? Again, and I might be able to save you the trouble here, you didn't see a photograph of that angle, did you, amongst the thumbnails before?
No.
No. So it would appear that this is the only copy of that photograph that we have. Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tempone. Now, you heard the police officer say that the fireys, that'd be you, the fire investigators, have provided preliminary information.
Well, does that follow? You can't put that as a proposition. You need to put it as a question, don't you?
Yes. Yes. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Yeah, question.
And you agree that you had provided that preliminary information?
Yes, we would have done.
Thank you. Now, that preliminary information was provided with some benefits and some negatives. And let me deal with the negatives. First of all, you hadn't spoken with Mel Barrett before you provided that information to the to the police.
No, the fire investigation team, we didn't speak to Mel Barrett until around lunchtime on the 6th.
Yeah. So you didn't have the benefit of what you just said on the interview.
No.
Thank you. Now, in relation to the positives, what you had done was come to the fire scene with an open mind.
That's correct.
And you had conducted a thorough fire scene investigation according to correct principles, hadn't you?
Objection.
Mm-hmm.
That is inconsistent with the evidence that the witness has already given you.
In what respect, Mr. Armstrong?
Well, I don't want to... the word preliminary was used several times, Your Honour.
Yes.
I don't want to go into more detail.
No, well, I understand the reason why. Mr. Reid?
Well, Your Honour, if it is inconsistent, that is the job of the cross-examiner. And I have asked a question. There can be no objection, no possible objection, other than an attempt to put me off the stride.
Oh, I'm sure that would fail on every occasion, Mr. Reid.
I'm not so sure about that, Your Honour.
I'll just ask the question again.
Yes, thank you. You had conducted your investigation on the 5th according to correct scientific principles, or correct fire investigation principles, hadn't you?
No, I had not.
Right. Well, you'd commenced it.
That's correct.
Yes. So what had you done with the commencement?
As explained in my report, and as I've explained earlier, I attended the scene with Tony Johnson. Preliminary walks around the property, looking for macro and micro indicators to determine potential areas of origin. That happened on the 5th.
Thank you. Now, the preliminary walk around was a full circle around the house, was it? Or 2 full circles around the house?
No, I can't be 100% specific, but I know I definitely walked in the area in the driveway around that bottom area. We did have a look up the back. I don't believe that we went all the way around the house initially.
Could we have document 100, please? And can we go, no, 99, sorry. And can we go to the end of those photographs? I'm wrong again, I'm sorry, it's 101 we need. We'll go to the end of those, please. If we take document 0058. Now, Mr. Bones, is that a helpful photograph for you to indicate to the court where it was that you and Mr. Johnson walked?
No, I can't be 100% sure. Like I say, it's been a long time since we attended the scene. To be 100% specific on every single thing that I did and every place that I walked on that day is very difficult for me to remember.
So, are you willing to make any indication on that map as to where you went? On that photograph, rather, as to where you went?
No. I know we definitely walked around the 3 driveway areas and up the top driveway at the top of the photo. And I would assume that I walked around the actual house, close to the house, but I wouldn't believe that I'd go any further to the west.
Right. So you've referred to 3 driveways and a top driveway. Can you send Mr. Tempono's cursor to what you refer to as the top driveway?
That's the one to the top of the picture.
Right. Yeah. And that's the least formed of all of the. That was the least formed of all of the 3 roadways. Do you recall that?
Oh, probably fair to say it was the least used.
The least used, yes. So can you write on that top, please, Mr. Tempono?
Mr. Tempono's getting very good at this. I don't know,
Yes,
how difficult it is to draw letters.
I think
The drawing tool.
I think I'll keep going, Your Honour. I probably don't need to. We'll test him out. You happy, Mr. Bones, if we label them top, middle and bottom?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, so they're the 3, if Mr. Tempono will test him out with the pen now. Middle. And Mr. Bones, just so we can make sense of all of this, they're the 3 driveways that I think your evidence was you walked around.
Correct.
Yes, I tend to that. Could the witness please be shown document 100-0044? Can we go back to the thumbnails? I've clearly made an incorrect note of the document. Have you got, it's 101 I wanted up. I think I might have said 100, I'm sorry. Yes, 0044. Thank you. Now, you see the witch's hat there, Mr. Bones. And can I just get Mr. Tempono to move forward 2 or 3 photographs because we get some close-ups of this area. Now back again, please. Thank you. That we can stay there. Do you recall why? First of all, you'd accept that these photographs are taken at your request or direction.
Yes, I can.
Thank you. And do you recall why they were taken?
Yes, Your Honour, I specifically remember this area because it showed that there was, it could sustain underground burning to roots, and what generally happens or can happen with larger root systems is that you might get a collapse in soft ground. So I just wanted to depict that that could happen on the property.
And indeed you bounced up and down on it to get that collapse to occur. Can I just take you back to that series of photos so you can have a look, see if it refreshes your memory? So we start, yes, now go forward, please. I'll just let you look at them.
I'm not quite sure if I bounced up and down. That may be why I went and got the broom handle to bash it. I'm not quite sure if I jumped up and down.
Oh, so you performed some impact on it to demonstrate what can occur.
I believe so.
Yes, and you think it was with this device that we're looking at?
I believe so.
Thank you. Now, could we go to photograph 9 in this set, please? And now, if we can now go to 10, please. Now, there's a series of photographs here from 10 through to 33. If we can run through those. Thank you. Now, do you recall if all of those photos were taken your direction?
Yes, I do recall.
Thank you. Could we have a look at document 29, Bates 0011? Now, that's, scroll down a bit, please. We see there in 2016, you're under professional development, determine origin and cause of wildfire. After you completed that course, were you then qualified by the TFS to conduct fire scene investigations?
That was obtained to be a national accreditation, not an internal qualification. I was already deemed suitable by the Tasmania Fire Service to conduct fire investigations.
And we don't see within the CV any specific course that you've attended that enabled that to occur. Were you deemed by the TFS suitable by reason of practical experience or by reason of academic qualification?
By reason of practical experience.
Thank you. Now, we see on the next page that, keep going down please, that you were the Regional Fire Officer South 2013 to 16. When in 2013 did you commence in that position?
It was on the 1st of January, Your Honour.
Thank you. Civil Court, please.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Reid. Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you, Your Honour. Mr. Bones, you were asked some questions yesterday about the use of a camera that was provided by the TFS. Do you recall the subject coming up yesterday?
Yes, I do.
Could you please explain to His Honour, back in early January 2013, to the best of your recollection, what was the process by which you or other TFS officers got hold of the TFS camera?
That was supplied to the Regional Fire Investigator. It was part of the basic kit.
And do you now recall how it was that you came to be in the possession or to be near the TFS camera on the 3rd of January?
I believe that would have been in my vehicle supplied by TFS.
And do you recall about what time on the 3rd of January you first came to have the TFS camera with you?
No, I don't.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honour, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr.
Mr.
Armstrong,
Bones,
seek Mr. Bones' relief.
Yes, thank you, Your Honour.
Thanks, Mr. Bones. You're relieved on the trial, which means you're free to go, but of course you're free to stay and observe proceedings if you wish at any time.
Thank you, Your Honour.
Would Your Honour just excuse me one moment? I'll
Yes.
find out what the situation is with Mr. Hall. What's the situation?
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Your Honour, I'm instructed that my learned friend's instructors have been in contact with Mr. Hall and he's still doing the homework task.
Okay, so he's been provided with some assistance by way of a map, or he's doing it on his own?
I think my instructions, Your Honour, are that he's got hold of a map from somewhere.
Right.
It's my learned friend's instructors, I gather, who've had the carriage of that rather
So it's
than
underway.
us.
Well, yes, in fact, I should say it seems to be a bit more than underway. Mr. Hall has, in fact, sent my instructors an email with a map, which we'll, of course, share with our friends, and we'll determine what we need to do, if anything, with Mr. Hall, or whether we just put that map in.
All right, that might be dealt with in the break then.
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you, Your Honour. In that case, Your Honour, the next witness for the plaintiffs will be Mr. Skelly, and Mr. Cox will take this witness.
Thank you.
Remain standing. Yep. Will you take notes or choose to make an affirmation? Do you swear by Almighty God that the evidence you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Skelly. Make yourself comfortable there. There's a fresh water if you need it.
Thank you.
Want it?
Mr. Skelly, could you please state your full name
Andrew James Skelly.
and your current occupation?
I'm Senior Station Officer with the Tasmania Fire Service.
And how long have you been with the TFS?
I joined as a volunteer in 82, so it's just under 40 years, and 84 as a career firefighter.
And back in January 2013, what was your position at that point in time?
My position at that point was Acting District Officer in the East Coast District.
And at that point in time, could you just give us an understanding of your experience with bushfires and dealing with them?
Yep, I've spent 10 years as a volunteer firefighter with the Bridgewater Country Fire Brigade. In 1984, I picked up a job as a trainee firefighter, and at the end of that, I also transferred to the Country Division to do a 3-year traineeship as a country fire officer. In 2000, I was asked to start up the remote area firefighting team, concentrating on bushfires there. So I've been to a number of bushfires. Sorry, I'll go back a step. I was promoted to station officer in 1990, so I've got 30 years experience as a station officer, senior station officer, and been to a number of bushfires over that time, including 6 deployments to the mainland leading teams.
Now, to take you back to the 3rd of January 2013, that was a total fireban day.
Yes.
And perhaps you could just tell His Honour, what sort of preparations did you and the TFS make for that day?
For that day, I'd already had I started in the district on Christmas Eve, and then on Boxing Day I got my first fire in the district. So there was still a number of brigade chiefs I needed to meet up with. The main part that happens on the total fire ban is we call a hot day response, which will double the initial response of brigades. So instead of one brigade going, we'll send two initially. They also set up a regional operations centre and an incident management team at the Cambridge Training Centre, and a state operations centre at our headquarters in Melville and Argyle Street. And there'd also be a regional operations centre in Launceston and Burnie as well.
And you were at Cambridge on that day, the 3rd of January?
Yep, at Cambridge, it's the main centre for the training mechanics, but there's also an office for the East Coast District. So I'm working out of the East Coast District office there. And
which way does you've got a window in your office?
I do. I've got two windows. I'm sort of on the northwest corner of the building, sort of facing Maxwell Street. Yeah.
And around 2 o'clock, you made some observations out that window. What did you see?
I could see a large column of smoke, very large column of smoke, in the Tea Tree Richmond area, so to my northwest out the window. At the time, I'd been pretty comfy with air conditioning and monitoring the computer, so I knew there hadn't been any pager calls for that fire yet. So straight away, I got onto my field officer that was in the next office that we needed to start rolling and organising more crews.
Okay. You say at this point in time there hadn't been any pages. Can you just explain what you mean by that?
From my computer, I can monitor our dispatch centre's what we call firm logs. So any new fires will appear in red in a box on the computer screen. I've also got a radio with the district channel in the office as well. I'd already been aware, and the regional operations centre's only up the corridor, so I'd been talking to them and I knew the repulse fire had already started, but that's outside my district. So at 2 o'clock I was pretty comfy because I didn't have any going fires in the district, but that changed just by looking out my window.
Okay. So what did you do, having seen these columns of smoke in and around the Tea Tree area?
Yeah, because of the size of the smoke, I knew we'd want more resources than that hot day response required. So I wanted my field officer, Mr. Munch, to get on the road as quick as he could. And I rang Firecom to increase the initial response. More of the local brigades responded straight away.
And you yourself set off as well, didn't you?
Yep, once I finished a couple of my phone calls with Firecom, I jumped in my vehicle and I was heading out to the Richmond Tea Tree area.
Okay. And en route, did you make other observations of smoking in the area?
Yes. Not far out of Cambridge, as you go along the Richmond Road, there's a slight rise past that caravan park, and there's a bend on top of the rise. And from that area there, I could see...
Just to slow you down, so
yep.
That's the caravan park out of
Cambridge
to the turn off to Richmond, and
yep.
The bend you're talking about is, I think, is the bend with a vineyard on the left, on the high side.
Yeah, there is a vineyard there. So from the intersection of Cambridge Road, there's a service station, the primary school, then that leads on to the caravan park, bit of a straight up the rise, and leading to a corner in the top of the rise.
Yep.
From that small hill, I could see a very small wisp of smoke in the Fawcett area. Not sure of the exact location, but straight away I'm thinking it's in the bush. And I've got another fire in the district that we need to deal with.
Okay. Do you know if any pages had come in at that point in time? Could you tell?
At that time, in my vehicle, I've again got another radio on the district channel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also carrying a pager that activates for any brigade in my district to notify me there's a call. And I hadn't heard anything at that stage, so my first thing to do was to pull over and contact Firecom via the phone.
And for what purpose?
Again, to get more resources rolling to the fire as quick as we could.
When you say the fire, you mean the Fawcett
The Fawcett fire,
rather
yes.
than the tea tree fire?
So looking at the tea tree fire, I've got this huge big column of smoke already billowing from there. The smoke I could see in the Fawcett area was just very, very small at the time, white in size, rising vertically a fair way above the hill, and then sort of dissipating with a little bit of wind. But I'm thinking that it's small at nature at the moment, and we really need to hit it as quick as we can with as many resources as we can.
Single column?
Just a single column, yes.
So you're going to hit it with all the resources you had. What steps did you take to implement that plan?
To do that, that was the phone call to Firecom, which is our radio 000 dispatch centre. Off the top of my head, it would have been, I've guessed it would have been in Dodgers Ferry and Wattle Hills area as the hot day response. I know I'd already taken a lot of resources to the tea tree fire, but I was thinking of Primrose and I think 7 Mile Beach, Midway Point. And I even got Dunalley Brigade up at some stage, but I think the initial call was to get Primrose and 7 Mile Beach up.
And you're obviously listening into fire comms through your radio.
Yep.
And are you hearing calls coming in from various brigades responding?
It takes a few minutes for the pager message to go out. And I'm pretty sure at the time I'm talking to the fire comm, they're starting to get the 000 calls for fires in that area. And at that time, I couldn't pinpoint the exact location, just that it was in the general area of Fawcett.
Okay. So 000 calls was coming in.
Yep.
At that point. Are you still on the side of the road?
Yes, I was at the side of the road for a few minutes talking to Firecom.
Yep. And ultimately, you dispatched yourself for White Hills Road?
Yes.
Yep.
I'd had another conversation with Mr. Munch that he'll have to take charge of tea tree.
Yep.
He had a really good experienced group officer in that area, so I was trusted he could, with his experience, that he'd be able to look after that fire.
Yep. And on your way to White Hills Road, the traffic, I understand, was pretty heavy?
Yep, took a bit longer than I was sort of hoping to get there, especially over the causeways at Midway Point. It's, there's not much room to push the cars off the side of the road. My vehicle's got lights and sirens, which I had on.
And did you make further observations of the column of smoke that you'd seen before?
I think by the time I got to the causeway, that had grown fairly significantly. There's a couple of areas on my travel where I'd lose vision of the smoke altogether.
The causeway is one.
But the causeway is one where you can look across to the Fawcett area.
Okay. And do you recall about what time you got to White Hills Road?
From the log, I believe it's 2:55 p.m.
Okay. And who was there?
In the White Hills Road, I'd already had conversations with Ollie, Mr. Terenius, on the radio, and he directed me to meet him there if we could meet up. So remember that the Dodgers Ferry 4-1 unit was there and another truck as well, but I wasn't sure of the exact brigade at that time.
Okay. And did you effectively take charge from Mr. Terenius?
We had a conversation just to see what he'd been doing. From my observations, especially from the road and the driveway in, we had a significant fire moving away from White Hills Road. So we needed to look at a good plan of attack and putting some systems in place. There's a point in time where the brigade chief from Dodgers Ferry and the group officer, Gavin Rainbirds, arrived at Inala Road, and from my perspective, it was really important to get in front of the fire and also meet up with Mr. Hall, Mr. Rainbird, Mr. Terenius, so that we could all make sure we're on the same page and we've got a plan moving forward.
And you settled on a plan?
Yep, based on the Tas Fire Service priorities. The fire was already burning out of control. The chief officer had set these priorities up after the Victoria 2009 bushfires, so it gives us a good list of what's most important to do, and number one's issuing warnings, which Mr. Terenius had done on his arrival. Number two is looking after vulnerable people, Number 3, critical community assets, other assets, to stop house-to-house ignitions, and then also to fight the fire when conditions have eased.
Okay. I'll ask you a little bit more about the time at Whitehills Road, but in a second. But before I do, I just want to bring up the incident log, document 75, please, Mr. Tempone. Can you read that, Mr. Skelly?
Yep.
Recognise that document?
Yes.
Yep. In simple terms, it's the incident log sheet for this fire. That's so, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Perhaps you could just help us with some of the entries. You'll see at the beginning there on the 3rd at 2:13 at 31 seconds, there's a reference Dodgers Ferry 1 and an arrow out.
Yep.
Could you just explain to the court what these arrows mean in the call log?
Yes, so the arrow out at that first one indicates to me that's when the dispatch officers issued the pager message out, and there's also another one where the arrow's in the reverse position to say that the pager message has been received or has been sent to the Dodgers Ferry Brigade.
And the dispatch message, would that have followed a 000 call?
Yes, so we'll get the first 000 call, and the standard message is the type of fire, in this case vegetation fire, the address, and a grid reference there, or map reference for the brigades.
I'll ask about the grid references in a second, but just going up to the headers at the top. The first, you see there how called 000, notes dry grass heading west towards thick scrub, vegetation fire, for example, Fawcett, Dunalley Road, all these matters. These are all the matters of information that come in and are collected collected for this log, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And would this be, and that would then generate a particular incident log?
Yes, so on the top left-hand side, it's got incident number. So for every fire, it's given a distinct number as part of the log.
Okay. And this one, of course, is 201651.
Yes.
And its name, I gather, comes from its address or the landmark that was referenced in the call.
Yes. The dispatch operator has 3 or 4 computer screens in front of them. So besides where they'll have a screen for typing in that information, it also brings up a map. One of the problems we can have from time to time is that it's like we haven't confirmed where the address is. It's just how we get the address identified by those 000 callers. So it can be moved from time to time.
I'm interested, just to come back to the first entries with the grid references there. Could you help us with those grid references and how they were likely referred or recorded by the incident log operations personnel?
The dispatcher would have, from discussing with the 000 caller, would pick a spot on the map to basically put a pin on that spot as a rough grid reference for us to know where we can where to respond to. So each brigade or each vehicle, even, like we have a 1 to 50,000 map book with the whole southern region in a booklet size. The pages are about A3 size, fairly large. So it just gives, and street atlases as well. So if a local, like the Dodgers Ferry Brigade would have a fair idea where they were exactly going in Whitehill Road. I didn't know, I know where Whitehills Road was, but 291 and the 244 and 242, I needed to reference my map book.
Sure. And just more generally in the vehicles that the volunteers have, I understand they have obviously their radios. Do they also have grid references that are displayed to them on their radios? At that time, I should say, in
Yep.
2013.
That we had I'm not sure the exact model number, but the radios with the orange handsets had a function where if you go star 56 hatch on the little LED display, it'll actually bring up the location in a grid format.
Okay, you might be testing your memory a bit, but the digits, 13-digit grid references back then, or something else?
We can use a variety. Normally we'll use a 6-figure grid reference for ease, but obviously the 13-figure gives us a lot more accuracy, and because the dispatch centre is using computer-based technology, they'll go for that 13-figure a lot more. The problem you have with a 6-figure is either east or west will be that number, somewhere down the, so many kilometres that way out. Once you're outside the grid, that'll change. So that grid, the 13-figure grid figure, gives us an exact location in Tasmania, pinpointed to within 100 metres.
Is that a good spot to break, Mr. Cox?
Yes, thank you.
We'll take the morning break.
Oh, stand please. Someone will stand.